Hello and welcome to NRL Tonight. I'm Gemma Barge. It's great to have your company this Friday afternoon. Two blockbuster games of footy coming right up. But first, here's your headlines. Things go from bad to worse for the Eels, with a star prop now facing a one-match suspension after their 52-4 smashing by the Storm. Relationship parked Craig Fitzgibbon and Josh Hannay go from friends to foes as they prepare to face off in the coach's box. And the reigning champs against the four-time premiers. The Broncos and Panthers go head-to-head in a Friday night footy thriller. Yes, all that and plenty more to come this afternoon on NRL Tonight. But the fallout from last night's match continues for the Eels after being thumped by the Storm. It has worsened for Jason Rowell's side, with Jermaine Hopgood now facing a stint on the sidelines. Let's bring in our reporter from Code Sports, Tyson Jackson. Tyce, great to see you. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Gemma, look, the Parramatta couldn't have asked for a worse start to the year. First 30 seconds of the game, Jermaine Hopgood has made a tackle and put his shoulder straight into a head, and that's resulted in a grade 2 charge, which will see him, if he takes the early guilty plea, have one match suspension. If he does choose to fight it, it'll be a 2-game suspension. But from looking at that footage on Alec McDonald, you're probably saying that Jermaine Hopgood's going to take the early guilty plea. He'll be out for a match. But it was only the start of Parramatta's woes last night, which resulted in a 50-point smashing. Yeah,
definitely. And well, the action continues tonight. And to preview it all, Fox League's Kevin Walters joins us now. Kevy, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
All good. Looking forward to what should be a terrific night of rugby league, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And let's begin with this monster preliminary final rematch between the Broncos and the Panthers. Brisbane destroyed Penrith's hopes of a 5th straight premiership title last year. How much weight will this game carry?
Oh, look, as being round one of the NRL fixtures for 2026, it'll carry some weight, but it's not the be-all and end-all tonight. Both teams will obviously head to Brisbane. The Broncos hosting the Panthers up there at Suncorp Stadium. Both teams want to get their season off to a good start with a win, but I'm sure it's going to be a very tight game. As to try and pick a winner of this, it's going to be very difficult indeed, but we should see a great contest between two of the more premier clubs, in our competition.
Definitely, Kevin. As we know, Brisbane are adjusting to plenty of changes ahead, with their skipper Adam Reynolds announcing his retirement, as well as Payne Haas making the move to the Bunnies. Yeah. Will this be a distraction for the Broncos this year, do you think?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Both players are very professional with their attitude and the way they go about their work. So for mine, I think knowing that these two players won't be there at the end of the year might be a bit stimulating for the players, with the foresight that this is their final year at the club. So I'm expecting, a really strong season from the Broncos, and in particular, those two players, Payne Haas, certainly, and their captain, Adam Reynolds, has been a great servant for the Broncos. Both of them have been, the last 3, 4, 5 years. So expect them to be very prominent in Brisbane's charge this year.
Definitely. And speaking of leaders, Ezra Mam admitted this week he's ready to stand up and show leadership ahead of Reynolds' departure. Do you think he's got what it takes?
Yeah, I do. That's great news from Ezra, that he wants to step into that leadership role. And obviously he's got a lot of talent, Ezra, and we saw that at the back end of last year. And if he can bring that mindset to the Broncos, it's always welcome. And I'm sure he's learned a lot from Adam Reynolds and his time with him in the halves. And, I feel like Ezra's best football is still in front of him as well. And a great experience last year for, winning the grand final. So they'll take that attitude and those winnings, I would have thought, particularly Ezra, into this year. And he's a very good young player. And if he's starting to mature even more, it makes him even a better prospect for the Broncos.
Definitely. And to their opponents now, some would say Brisbane ended Panthers' dynasty. Is this the case, do you think, or is it just temporary?
No. Well, that's be determined over the season, isn't it? But the Broncos and every club in the NRL have got nothing but respect for the Panthers and what they have achieved in the last 4 or 5 years. So, tonight will be no different. There'll be lots of respect on the field, but, knowing that last time the Panthers travelled north to Suncorp Stadium was that preliminary final, and the Panthers got mowed down from behind by the Broncos. They were up 14-0 at one stage in that game. So I'm sure there's some memories there for both clubs, and in particular the Panthers, who want to get back to Suncorp and maybe square a bit of the ledger up from the last time they ventured north.
For sure. And, the second year of Blaze and Cleary in the halves, is it a bit of a scary thought to think they could possibly be even more dangerous this year?
Yeah, well, I believe they will get better as a 6 and 7 combination. They've only had the one season together, and even Blaze came in, I think, after about 5 or 6 rounds of the NRL. So they have had limited time together, and they are forming, a really strong combination in those halves. So with Reynolds and Mam up against these two, that alone is some brilliant stuff tonight that will be on show from both sets of halves of the Broncos and also the Panthers.
Definitely. And Kevy, let's turn our attention to the first game of the evening now, rather. Roosters and the Warriors, DCE's first official match for the Chooks. What can we expect?
Well, I think plenty from DCE's. I was fortunately up at Gosford for the first trial for the Roosters up against Parramatta, and I thought they both combined really well together. DCE's a very experienced player, and there's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation around his move over to the Roosters. I think it's a good pickup for the Roosters, and I believe he'll help not only Sam Walker, but the rest of the Roosters players as well. They've already got some really strong leadership, at the Roosters, and I feel like Sam Walker is in for a really big season with DCE outside. Of course, you've got James Tedesco there as well, who I'm sure that Sam Walker is still learning from, and I'm sure that DCE will pick up some good tips from him as well. He's been a standout leader and player in our competition for a long time, as DCE has as well. So between those two experienced guys and the younger Sam Walker coming through, it makes for a very good spine there, for the Roosters.
Definitely, he's for sure the talk of the town. And I mean, how do you think the combination between him and Walker will go?
I think it'll be excellent. DCE is at that age where he can not be as dominant on the field, and we saw in that trial a few weeks back that Sam Walker was the lead and the go-to half, and so I think that's got to prevail as well. I think Sam's coming into his best football, and he's such a good attacking young player. I think DCE will let that flow and let that evolve throughout the season, and also just tip in and shine when he needs to. Of course, with so many good players in that spine at the Roosters, they can't all have the ball at once. So they've got to be a bit selfless, but also making sure they're supporting each other around the field as well. And I'm sure that all three can manage that given their standings in the game.
For sure, we can't wait to watch them. And I mean, the Warriors, they have some outs, especially in the halves with no Metcalf. Will this hinder their chances?
Yeah. Look, obviously I'm favouring the Roosters tonight, given the expectation of that. The Roosters club has been big for a long time as well, and with the addition of DCE, they're in for a big season. The Warriors are missing a couple of key players, but they need to start the season well as well. It's always tough going across the ditch and playing against the Warriors, no matter where you're playing, whether it's in Auckland or other cities, across New Zealand. So a big ask for the Roosters, but I feel like they're up for it and up for the challenge tonight. So I'm going to tip the Roosters in that one, and I'm going to tip the Broncos just to sneak home against the Panthers in a tight one, maybe a field goal or a penalty goal separating the two teams up at Suncorp Stadium.
Well, that'll be the icing on the cake. Kevin Walters, thanks so much for chatting to you. We'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
And Tice, you actually spoke to Roosters' Nafahu White this week, and he revealed some pretty interesting stuff for someone viewed as such a strong player.
Yeah, probably one of the scarier guys in the Roosters pack, Gemma, and we're talking about what he does to be this scary character on the field, and is he the same scary character off the field? He told me that Connor Watson lifts more than him. There's multiple Roosters players that lift more than him. Actually, he credits the outside backs as probably some of the stronger lifters in the gym. He's not a guy that spends so much time worrying about strength. He says he'd rather worry about kind of his heart and mentality on the field. Away from footy in the off-season, Nafahu completely switches off, which for a lot of people is very hard, right? You're always thinking about footy and things like that, and you hear players that are just so obsessed, but Nafahu completely switches off. And he said to me, I'm going to let my talking happen on the field. So, he's a very interesting guy. He also reads a lot, apparently, so his vocabulary is very good, especially when we're interviewing, and he's a great chat, So I was really lucky to have that conversation with him, and we found out some really interesting insight into someone who looks so intimidating.
And I mean, to the Broncos, Payne Haas will be playing in front of a Brisbane crowd for the first time since announcing his move to the Bunnies. I mean, he must be preparing for some fan backlash. Yeah, we're hearing that there's going to be a bit of backlash. We're hearing that fans are going to stick by him. Like, there's a bit of kind of back and forth between, what's going to happen tonight. From my opinion, I believe the Brisbane fans will stick by him because they need him to win a premiership this year, right? He's not gone to the Rabbitohs yet, but you have to expect that there's going to be some boos and there's going to be some fans that are quite disappointed. The announcement came out of nowhere. It caught a lot of people by surprise, including myself and pretty much all of the rugby league media world. So, it's pretty crazy that
he's going. But I think that we're going to see a nice reception for him because they need him to win this game tonight.
For sure, lots on the line. Well, let's go to tomorrow night's game now, and Craig Fitzgibbon and Josh Hannay aren't exchanging any pleasantries heading into their first clash against each other when the Sharks host the Titans on Saturday night. The duo worked for 4 years together in Cronulla, but now they face each other for the first time as head coaches.
He endorsed him for the top job on the Gold Coast, but Sharks coach Craig Fitzgibbon won't be exchanging texts with former assistant Josh Hannay ahead of round one.
No, not this week. No. We're general coaching. We don't talk to the opposing coach on game week, but I had a chat a couple of weeks ago, and then we'll be good to catch up after the game.
A caretaker coach for Cronulla in 2021, Hannay spent 4 years under Fitzgibbon, but you wouldn't know it this week.
Like I could have probably spent all week talking about them, to be honest. I just made that decision to make it all about us.
The new Titans coach receiving nothing but praise from his former mentor.
The work that he's done with the Sharks and then Queensland's sort of put him on the radar, and he's very measured, very controlled, he's clear about what he wants, so he'll be fine, I think. But again, not this week, hopefully.
Gold Coast won both its pre-season games, but they'll be without halfback Jaden Campbell for their season opener after a hamstring injury. Dragons recruit Lachlan Ilias named in the number 7 jersey.
The last 2 years have probably felt really tough for that young guy, so he came up here for an opportunity, a fresh start. We promised him that, and yeah, I'm stoked that he's here, not just because he's able to step in this weekend, but he's just added nothing but value the whole pre-season.
One of the most pressing issues facing Cronulla will be juggling around a dozen off-contract stars. Sifa Talakai, the first domino to fall after signing with the Perth Bears.
You just simply can't keep everyone anyway, and what we'd like to think is, like, Sifa's got a really good opportunity now. Like, we're proud of ourselves for developing him as a player, for him to go and earn a contract like that and look after his family. So he wanted to stay. So it hurts. Like, it's a reality of the jobs. But also, Sifa is a Shark this year, and he wants to be. I'm watching him at the moment and looking forward to seeing him this year. Yeah.
The Titans have not defeated the Sharks in Sydney since 2017. Dane Livingston, Fox Sports News.
Tice, no surprises. Both teams have been quiet this week, but deep down, do you think knowing each other will be a benefit?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, you look at Josh Hannay and all the time he spent at Cronulla and what he kind of knows about the game. And then you look at Craig Fitzgibbon, someone who would have, given a whole lot of skills to Josh Hannay in his coaching career, will be a massive tool for them as well. I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth at the game, and I think the game's going to be really close. But these are two humble coaches, two quite respectful coaches. So I'm not surprised that we didn't see any direct barbs, but there's definitely probably a case of beer on the line between these two this weekend.
For sure. And let's talk about Lachlan Ilias. Given the opportunity, do you think he'll come out with now a big point to prove? Yeah, well, I think for Lockie at the Titans, it's completely different to the situation he's been in at his last two clubs. At the Rabbitohs, he was the guy that was there to replace Adam Reynolds. He came to the Dragons as their first choice halfback. He's actually been signed to the Titans as their second string, someone that's going to have to prove that they can make their way into the team, that they can lead the team around. His trial form was great, and I'm actually really excited that he gets this opportunity. Yes, it comes off the back of injury to Jaden Campbell, which is a shame, especially for the Titans and how good he is. But, I mean, Lachie Ilias deserves this opportunity. A lot of people don't think he had a fair crack last year. So this will put all those questions to bed. If he can come out to Shark Park, we just heard on the package, the Titans haven't been the Sharks in Sydney since 2017. If he can be that first half to do that, it's going to put him in the hot seat, I think, for the rest of this year to make sure he's in that top 17 for the entire year. We're definitely keen to see him go out there and shine. And Sharks winger Sam Stonestreet has been working with an Aussie Olympian. What more can you tell us? Yeah, well, I mean, you don't get much bigger Aussie Olympians than Matt Shervington. I don't know if that's because of the massive Olympic success or the TV success he had afterwards. But, yeah, the speed of Sam Stonestreet, the acceleration, the explosion has apparently improved off chart. So we're gonna see tomorrow. But Matt Shervington is the guy that you want to coach you in these things. He was once Australia's fastest 100-metre sprinter. I mean, I think even Matt Shervington could make me pretty fast, right? So, look, I'm really excited to see Sam Stonestreet. He's got a massive job this year coming in to replace Ronaldo Mulatalo, who's a massive loss. But
he also he needs to keep playing well so he can keep earning those contracts. He got the extension last year, but he wants to solidify himself. And there's a lot of Sharks off contract at the end of this year, and there's going to be a bit of change around Cronulla, like Sifa Talakai, like some of those other guys. So if he wants to stay around the Shire and around the club, he's going to have to continue on that trajectory. And working with Matt Shervington is probably the best thing for that.
Definitely. Welcome back to NRL Tonight. I'm Gemma Barge. Well, Raiders coach Ricky Stewart insists there's no pressure on his young halves, Ethan Strange and Ethan Sanders, this weekend as they begin a new era for the Green Machine. They'll be joined by club debutant Jayden Brailey, who pushed Owen Paddy out of the squad, but Stewart is confident that he'll only get better, the hooker.
They've looked good in all our training sessions together. As I said to David, it's not brand new to them. They worked together last year at training as well, just not games. But it'll just be time. Get 12, 14, 15 games under their belt, and all of a sudden you might see a little bit of cohesion. But it takes, when you're looking at great half combinations, it takes years. You remember he's had 12 months of training with the squad, with the boys last year, and I've got to give him credit. He came to the club knowing he was going to be behind Jamal and do his apprenticeship. He got one game with us last year. I think he's quite courageous in regards to taking that apprenticeship on last year to build longevity in his career, and that's what he'll get. It's a lot of young players today are too much in a rush to play first grade. So I take my hat off to Sando, who he sat back and waited, developed his game, and he'll be better for it.
Obviously, Brailey making his debut on the weekend. What do you think he is going to kind of add to this side this year?
Definitely experience. He's got good craft out of dummy half. He's good front-on defender. And, he brings a high standard of work. His work ethic's very good. So. Brails has given me the opportunity now for Owen to go back and start developing his game, playing minutes. You're never going to be able to keep developing Owen playing. I think he averaged 20, 21 minutes of football last year. So really, it was this will be very good for Owen as well to start developing some finer parts of his game in regards to playing long minutes and making decisions, efforts under fatigue once he's played a fair bit of game time.
Meanwhile, Manly coach Anthony Seibold has refused to draw a comparison between Daly Cherry-Evans and Jamal Fogarty as the Sea Eagles prepare to run out with a new halfback. Seibold also confident forward Jake Tavojevic has put the work in to recover from his repeated concussions over the last 18 months.
Jamal is he's very structured player. He's got a great kicking game. He's really strong defensively with his one-on-one contact. And so, I feel the biggest thing he brings is organisation. And Ches is very different. Ches, wonderful kicking game as well. Probably play a little bit more off the cuff, but, both wonderful players. And, Ches will be long remembered here at the club for his fantastic contribution over a long period of time. But, Jamal's our halfback, and they're not comparable players. They're very different weapons in their game. And so, we feel like Jamal's fitted in really well, and he'll keep building cohesion with the halves and Turbo. But he's been a great addition. He's a great family man, and I can see why he was so strongly so strongly supported in Canberra because of his on-field and off-field contribution. He's done a lot of work on his neck strength. Kieran Cleary, our physio, was the ex-Wallabies physio, and obviously a lot of the front rowers in rugby union do a lot of neck strengthening, and there's a lot of research around strengthening of neck and reduction of concussion issues. So he's put an enormous amount of work in that space, Jake, and he's obviously wearing headgear, which I think's been well documented. He gave it a go in the scrimmage against the Dragons. He's been wearing it at training, and so he's got used to wearing that, and he's really looking forward to getting out there. He's one of our leaders, and obviously
we're a better team when Jake's in the team and playing good footy. So we can't wait to get him out there. He's looking forward to get back on the park again. And as I said, he's fully fit and he's ready and raring to go.
Tice, let's talk about the Raiders first. Ricky mentioned how impressed he was by Ethan Sanders really taking the time to develop his game before the season. What can we expect from him and also Ethan Strange?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fans that haven't seen much of Ethan Sanders, He made his debut a couple of years ago. He only played one game last year, but now he's been given the keys to this Canberra Raiders side as their halfback. He's a really, really good organising half. He's got a great kicking game. He's also got a bit of a running game as well, which people aren't used to seeing from someone who plays the style of footy that he does. So I think for Canberra fans, they've got to be quite excited to have someone of Sanders' kind of... I guess, level that he's already at such a young age on their team. But then you look at Ethan Strange, you look at what he did last year, he went on the Kangaroos tour. Ethan Strange, for me, is a smoky for Origin this year. So if that gives kind of Canberra fans or rugby league fans in general any indication of what to expect from their halves, it would be quite exciting. The only thing is you've got to give them time. It's not going to click straight away. I've tipped Manly for this weekend, but I think as the season goes on, they're going to get better. Their team's going to get better. And they're just going to have to rebuild to that kind of point that they were at last year. But it just comes with experience, right? Like Ricky said, 15 games in, 20 games in, they're going to be up there. They're going to be up there as a good halves pairing. It's just going to take time. It's not supposed to click in the first 5 weeks of the comp.
Definitely. And Ricky also mentioned today others wanted to sort of move on from last year's straight sets finals bow out, but he had the opposite mindset, wanting to build on the positives of last year. Do you think this squad can go one step further?
No, I don't this year. I think that what happened last year, the way that everything ended last year, is too big of a kind of gap to cover. They won that game against the Broncos 3 times. They won it 3 times. They had to take it off them 3 times and then eventually lost it. They should have beaten Cronulla the week after. But you carry that stuff. You carry that baggage. I'll never argue Ricky Stewart's strategies, but he's carried that. He's spoken to many people about it. He's very open about it as well, how much that's affected him. Anytime he's spoken to Ricky in the off-season, it comes up in conversation, and most of the time from him. So, yeah, I think that's going to hold them back a little bit this year. That, plus a little bit of inexperience. They've had a couple of team changes. Players that were in the team last year are no longer there. Plus, you've got Owen Paddy, who's gone back to reserve grade to work on his craft. Matt Timoko hasn't even made the starting centre spot. So there are changes there. So I don't think they're going to exceed to the heights that they were at. I think they'll be there and about. So I think the competition is going to be so close that this Canberra forward pack as well will be up there, and be able to keep them in games.
Definitely. And let's chat about Manly for just a minute. Jamal will obviously have massive shoes to fill. We know this, but he has said this week he's going to play his own game and try not to be him. How important is that mindset heading into a role like this? Yeah,
it's very important, especially when you look at what Manly needed, and Manly needed a change from Daly Cherry-Evans. And I think it's really interesting because I think the Roosters needed someone like Daly Cherry-Evans. But Manly needed to get away from his style of play, his dominance. He's been ingrained in that system for so long now that things don't necessarily get stale, but, you almost run out of new things to throw at people. So Jamal Fogarty's been signed to be Jamal Fogarty. He's the first person to say that to you when you talk to him. He says, I'm not DCE, I'm Jamal. So, yeah, when he goes out there and he gets his opportunity to shine, it's so important that he plays his game, not just for himself, but for the team he has around him. He's got some great players outside him. Luke Brooks on the other side, who's playing every week for his future, it almost seems, with Joey Walsh nipping at the heels on the bench. And he's also got quite a good forward pack as well that he can work with. So for Jamal, yeah, it's so important that he plays his style of footy. And if he does, this side's going to go further into winning games than not.
Manly get a lot of big forwards back, Tanila and Hamoli. Will that be a massive boost for the side?
Yeah, 100%. Hamole, I spoke to Hamole actually in the week, and you'll see this in the Saturday Telegraph when they're playing. Hamole has spent the off season kind of just itching. He goes fishing by himself, to keep sane while he's had shoulder injuries. Paseka was such a huge loss for them last year. With Paseka, I think Manly get a bit further towards that top 8 spot that they would have hoped for. So, yeah, it makes a huge difference. Also, Jake Trbojevic, right? We just heard about his headgear, and I've had chats with Jake in the off-season to see where he's at. mentally he's there, right? And concussions are such a serious thing, and he's taken all the right precautions to make sure he can get back on the field. He knows that he's playing, you know, every week as though it's his last, because he knows one more, and it's not great news for him. So it's going to be a massive in for Manly, and with Jake there, Captain Courageous, his brother out the back, you know, they're going to be good. They're going to be strong.
It's a good combination. Tyson Jackson, always great to chat. Thanks so much. Well, that's all we have time for on NRL Tonight this evening. Fox Sports News has your headlines all night long on Channel 500. And for viewers on Fox League, the Warriors and Roosters is up next. Enjoy your footy.